Hey guys, welcome to another session of RBTL, the Reading Between the Lines. This is the May 12th edition. This is not a super big one, but because the EEs that were introduced for this one, the exclusive equipments, are quite a big deal in my opinion. Ancient Inheritance coming back, I wanted to spend some time talking about this patch note. As I'm making this recording, we already are in maintenance, so it depends on when you watch it, but if you want to hear my thoughts on it, of course you're in the right place. The Ancient Inheritance Season 2 is a really good touch right now. It's been a month or so since our last one, maybe even almost 2 months. But this is a really good filler before the collab rerun hits. We have Ancient Inheritance here since the Awaken update from Smilegate with all those free heroes, free Mola, like all those like Mystic check-in like events and stuff like that. It's obviously that like older players or people who had played in the past and kind of left, they're kind of coming back to say, hey, you know what's going on? It's pretty hype. Seeing a lot of advertisements on Epic 7 as well, like through Google and stuff like that. So we know that like Smilegate is trying to, they don't want that lull again that we kind of had like maybe a year ago. They want to keep the hype. They want to keep the momentum. And even though I would say, again, I wouldn't rate this patch to be like, oh, super hype. It's not super big. But we are just coming down from that hype of all those free rewards, and this is good, like feeding us some content with also good rewards, keeping us incentivized to continue to push in the game or just have a casual time. So anyways, Ancient Inheritance Season 2 coming back, awesome. It's coming on Monday, starts on Monday and it lasts for about 2 weeks, so same as last time. But it's good that it's coming on Monday so that the hunt buff that we're getting this weekend is not going to be distracted from this. So we can just focus on the hunt buff, focused on, whatever you need to focus on over the weekend. A lot of quality of life changes. I won't go through every single one, but definitely good. So like being able to leave notes is like super awesome, even though they have a character limit, pretty much a tweet. But it is a lot better than using symbols. And I know that like with the first time around, they did take a lot of the learnings from it, so I do think that this is a huge improvement with the amount of time since the last event. What they have so far is dealing with a lot of the, I would say, like the little, I wouldn't say issues, but definitely they would have considered it as, I guess, an issue. Lowering the requirements of the guild members to even be able to do this, that's a huge one as well. We do know that Guild War in general is like, get into guild, everybody wants the rewards, but there are still going to be players having a hard time, finding a full guild or even an active guild, right? So a lot of players, like, they'll play the game and, they'll dump the game, right? And that's just for any game. That's not like Epic 7 specifically, but there are just players who are not committed to it. So there's always going to be that issue. That's including Guild War, but Ancient Inheritance, of course, will suffer through that as well. Increased rewards as well, new UI states, very great. Increased rewards, ease of the playing, very cool. The ranking board also changed. I didn't really care about it that too much, but I know that some guilds were pushing that, so that you can include top 10 guilds now instead of 5 is pretty cool. Anyways, like if you are interested in obviously seeing the notes for yourself, definitely consider that. Don't get that from me. You know how my RBTLs work. I hardly read. But exchanging, I mean, so the sets are really cool, right? So now we're getting a pattern. Since this is season 2, we're kind of seeing this kind of like arena gear pattern, but it is like much better than arena. Yes, they're labeled 88s, but for everyone who knows, like the results of the speed set ones and the health set ones were pretty good. Like I'm using them on even PvP-able heroes. It's just that some of the substat alignment is not that great, right? Like a lot of the pieces on our speed set was like effectiveness, effect, resist, right? So it had always like this kind of weird push and pull with the stats. This time around, I would say it's pretty good, but again, we're kind of seeing like an alternating thing. I would say like, so like the weapon is really good there, right? Health, crit rate, 5 speed, 9 attack. It rolls like definitely rolls similar to a 90. So like after Reforge, if you roll high, it will look more likely than not like a 90 gear. Maybe minus a few points on the health, attack, those kind of stats, like effectiveness. The helmet also looked pretty good, but yeah, you have one, I would say, dead stat there. Effectiveness with crit rate, kind of weird. but I guess if you roll lucky, you can still roll that out, which I still say it's usable gear. And the chest piece as well, defense, health, effectiveness, and speed. That one's actually pretty good as well. That alignment is really good. The boot is not health this time, so in terms of, it's not the they kind of flipped the sets. So before, our 4-piece set was the necklace and then left side gear. Now they changed it where the boot is completing the set of the 4-piece set and the necklace is not. So kind of interesting how they kind of changed that around. I don't know what to expect on the 3rd season, but we can kind of expect a 4-piece set and then a 2-piece set. It just depends, I guess, what they want. I'm assuming that they're always going to change the right side gear around to like have maybe the ring will be part of the 4-piece set or something like that in the future. I'm expecting that, and then the left side gear all the 4-piece. That makes the most sense, because if you have a 4-piece on the accessory, like combining both accessories on the 4-piece set, that makes it pretty OP, unless the substats suck. I won't explain why that makes sense or anything, but if you understand it, you understand it. The speed boot also pretty good. Like it could be ends up being like a Soul Weaver gear, and interesting enough, like in World Arena right now, like a lot of heroes, even if they're DPS, they're still seeking like 100 ER. So if you roll high, which is now the condition of gear anymore, it's all about just high roll. It's gonna look good as well. The necklace, I would say, and the I would say the necklace is probably going to be the best looking accessory. The ring is also good, I guess, but the attack with the health main is, I wouldn't say it's not used, it's less used. I would say crit damage would be better there, but it doesn't seem that we have any crit damage substats. And maybe this will be the trend, who knows. But either way, I think there's a lot of good potential pieces here. And based on the speed set and the health set, how they rolled for me, how they rolled for most people, these are not going to disappoint. There's something about these that they just feel like they roll higher innately, like have a lower chance to fail. But watch me jinx myself when I roll my pieces. I get the lowest rolls. So yeah, we got the new chapter, episode 4, chapter 6. Fire. I think it's pronounced Adin, but I've been saying Adine. I thought Adine was like the proper pronunciation. But regardless, the fire elemental one looks pretty good. And so there's a video introducing. I don't know why. I just saw something about Senpai. Closed. Either way, it looks pretty good. The specialty change. The full skill set like has basically the hero is definitely interesting to me now. Like how they keep building upon her. So is she gonna be at the end, like at her end of her evolution? Is she gonna be like even viable in PvP? I don't know. Like right now, she seems to like be like a PvE monster. She has everything, right? Like with this specialty change, with like the rune tree and stuff like that, she has like, you know, full team attack buff, fire heroes, full team attack buff. Like she's got dispel, she's got like defense break, she's got healing on S1. She's got a ton of stuff in her toolkit, which makes her like even better than someone like Aroz. Now Aroz is kind of outdated compared to like a story protagonist, but this is like I would say it's insane. It's pretty good. Yeah, bringing like more critical hit damage, more dual attack chance on fire allies, increasing her own effectiveness because she's a pretty decent debuffer, increasing attack, increasing health. It's like pretty nuts. There's a lot of really good stuff here. Amount recovered by ankle cut, which is the S1, by 50%, and it's based on damage dealt. So if you land a defense break, she's gonna heal quite a bit, I would say. Yeah, so yeah, you get dispel. You got 100% grant increased attack to fire elemental allies for 2 turns. Pretty cool, right? So I haven't even started her specialty change or her second form. I'm still at like the base Adine, but you know, I think with the rune, actually no, the rune buff just finished. Maybe I should have farmed it more. But it looks interesting. Well, we'll see. I'll probably build her when I get really bored or something. But I think that's really cool. Now, EEs, I think this is going to be the big one. Everybody's very excited about the EEs. I think all of them look very promising in their own realm. So So let me explain what I mean by that. So like for example, Zahhak, I wouldn't believe that, you know, just because he got an EE now he's going to be usable for PvP. That's not what it tells me, at least World Arena PvP. But let's start from the beginning, right? So Diene, so since Diene got a buff last patch, she hasn't really been like used, right? So it's like, okay, cool, you got some cool stuff, but it was like we haven't seen the potential, and I think this EE gives her that potential that she needs. Now, I will say this: when Amelia was released, I was saying that, oh, Amelia is like Diene 2.0. She was like the better Diene, and she turned out that she was the better Diene, and she's more used. And especially now with the Soul Weaver Frenzy full World Arena, she is a big deal. Like if you give Amelia good gear, like really fast or high ER or what have you, she will do a lot for your team, right? So she hasn't really like died since her release, but she's only gotten stronger with the Soul Weaver Frenzy. Now with Diene, I think that the EE makes her Amelia 1.5. So I don't think that this EE makes her Amelia tier. I don't think that this will make Amelia less used, and therefore they will use Diene more. So I wouldn't say that this EE makes Diene even Amelia tier. I would still say Amelia is better, just because of the way Amelia works is that attack buff pushing 50% on a single target. That is very, very good for like, you know, boosting anything, right? Diene is more like a supportery, but also getting kind of aggro. Getting the extra 10 speed on her is not nothing. So I tried putting some extra gear on, not my Amelia gear, some of my old Diene gear with some new gear on, just to see if I can get like a decent Diene, thinking about the EE. So I can get like about 266 speed or something like that. So on top of the, or 265 or something like that, on top of the 10 speed EE, that's 275 plus the frenzy, right? So you could do the math there. That's going to outspeed my Amelia, but whether or not that's useful, I'm not 100% sure. So what we have is a couple that looks like, you know, we got Light of Judgment, so we got everything on the S1 and S2. Light of Judgment is the S1, so increase combat readiness of the ally with the highest attack by 5% when using Light of Judgment, and when the caster has a buff, the effect is doubled. So if the caster Diene herself gets a buff, which her buffing turn cycling is actually pretty good unless she gets dispelled, we're talking about a 10% CR boost for the highest attacker every time she does attack. I think even if you're like lightning fast Diene, you probably won't benefit from that as much unless you run a counter Diene. Now, counter Diene hasn't at least to me been like, it had never established a heavy meta, like a counter Diene was like a must build. But I think with a counter Diene in mind, that could be a play there. But again, she'll need to have like, you know, like other artifacts to keep in mind. I'm not quite sure yet though. Like did she go with Celestine with that counter build? Probably still best in slot there. So yeah, so I'm not quite sure about the S1 one, but I think that's how I would use it if I had a counter Diene, but I don't. Blessings of the Goddess, the first one. So Blessing of the Goddess, barrier strength increased by 10%. I think the barrier is good, but I think for what we need right now in the meta, the barrier and the way she turn cycles is not as important as the last one. Okay, so the barrier is already thick enough. Her barrier is based on the allies max health, so that like if you have a it's like a percent based on the allies max health, which is good, especially if you have really bulky heroes, right? It means that you gain a lot of barrier. But I would say the pudding is the last one. So increase the combat readiness of all allies by 15% when using Blessings of the Goddess. So you can imagine a scenario where like, you know, a Sea Lilius or a Pera, they do their debuffing skill. Diene now with her buffs can cleanse 2 debuffs with her S2, so Blessings of the Goddess. So she can increase combat readiness and Dispel, and I'm assuming the Dispel comes first because that's in her skill set, and then the EE comes after. It doesn't say here, but I think that's the assumption. That's why people are really excited about this. But 15% CR boost for the entire team is good. So you'll lose the unbuffable, you'll lose the restrict, right? The issue is though, again, unlike Amelia, Amelia is that if she gets the turn, she can push right into aggro, right? She can force either a kill or you know, weaken someone enough for a follow-up hit, or force a healer on the opponent's side to have to heal, or have to, you know, use their biggest hero or something to keep someone alive, something like that. So Diene is gonna basically remain of like, you can bring her into a fight where you just want a straight up attack buffer, but then it's not like ML Cowrick, right? So ML Cowrick cleanses in straight up attack buffs. So that's where Diene kind of falls short. Of course, she brings the anti-crit buff and all that stuff, but I feel like the amount of attack buffers we have definitely is very good right now. So like Peyra doesn't have to do S2. She can straight up do S3. ML Cowrick, of course, is on the list of good attack buffers. ML Charles, Amelia, even though it's single target attack. And then Diene, I think, will fit nicely. It's just that I'm not convinced she's going to be as like hard picked as someone like an Amelia. But that being said, I think if you need an attack buff and your team is pretty safe, let's say you're playing like a comp with like Guard the Spec Tenny, then I think, you know, going with a Diene could be good. It just all depends. Honestly, it just all depends. And Diene is solid in general. I just don't know. Like I said, I would say that she's a kind of like Amelia 1.5. They're trying to get to an Amelia, but she's not going to be a replacement of Amelia. She's just going to be slightly aggro, but kind of team focused. Yeah, so we'll have to see. I do like the artifact though. I think, the artifact, the EE. I think the EE is definitely incentivizing for me to rebuild Diene, and just to see like how people use her and where they use her. But I definitely think that the attack buffer rolls is very, very healthy. You got a lot of options. You can double up on attack buff quite easily right now in RTA. Zahhak, I was gonna say this. So Zahhak EE, I think is very, very good. It's just that his EE doesn't make him usable for something like World Arena. So like I would say like Fire Cowrick in the past is always very vulnerable, and then he got an EE and he got an upgraded EE that gave him the stealth on the right turn, and that makes him a monster right now. And in Zahhak, I don't know what their plan is, but it doesn't seem that they're going for that, at least not in this patch. But it definitely would make him more viable, I suppose. The biggest one for me, to be honest, is the elaborate plan. So it increases the target of the caster for target and the caster for 2 turns using elaborate, like increase attack. So attack buff, he can attack buff someone else, he can attack buff himself. So this means that if you bring him into a guild war offense, you no longer have to rely on another attack buffer. So potentially you could have a better team. But execute is also pretty good. So execute number 1, that's the S3. So inflicts resource reduction on the target by 60% before the skills effect when using execute. So I listened to what resource reduction is, and I think that's like focus or something, focus gain. So that would be like, you know, like Arya, all that stuff. I'm not quite sure though. I believe there was another hero, I think it's like an ML. I don't remember her name, the one that came with Camilla. I believe she has something like that. But if you guys know that in the comments below, definitely educate me on that. So I think that potentially, based on my knowledge, I believe that could have potential. Decrease skill cooldown of execute. I'm not so big on that one. I think it's cool, but it's like he'll still have a turn in between, so he's not gonna be like spamming it. So I think that one I would probably save it, because most of the time, again, if he's not usable in World Arena, you probably use him in like Guild War offense or something like that, where Violet is on the defense or Rylet is on the defense. So I don't think you're gonna be fighting 2 dodging heroes. So having to execute there probably not as important, or maybe you're just trying to injury like an A Robbie or something. So I think overall it's an okay artifact. They gave him a percent attack as well for the EE. I keep saying artifact, apologies. EE. which is good because he doesn't really need crit rate because of how he's built. So like I guess attack is higher, a decently high value I guess to him. Speed would have been good as well, but I'm not gonna complain. So attack is pretty cool. So Inferno Khawazu also usable, and Inferno Khawazu in a controllable PvP fight, very very good. Now with these EEs, I am curious. I'm like, maybe he's usable for World Arena again, like maybe last pick, right? Getting increase of 14% attack on that EE is very very good. That's roughly 2 rolls of attack, sort of low roll, but it's still better than nothing. Malicus's power, the first one, Blazing Fury increases combat range by the cast by an additional 5%. This could be good if you're running a quick one just to cut like the Payra follow-ups or the Ran follow-ups or something like that. It could be good. So like even if they have like a Caesarea or something like that, if you're fast enough, you might be able to get the turn, right? Malicus's power number 2 grants immunity to caster for 2 turns when using Blazing Fury. This is also a very nice touch. I know that myself when I'm using him in a controllable AI fight, that sometimes he does get debuffed after the turn. So like for example, like Payra, RNLs or something like that, and for whatever reason she goes for him, like let's say I have an FCC barrier, so no damage was dealt, and then she like RNLs and then goes after him and stuns him, then I lose that turn. So the immunity could come in handy here. I'm pretty sure there are other combos I'm not really thinking of. Probably like a Caesarea type thing as well could work as well, right? So if you have him quick enough and he can potentially cut the summertime. He has the immunity, so when she's placing the bomb, he most likely wouldn't get affected by that, so she would have to burn a skill into that. So perhaps he can take out that Caesarea, right? So I think he's with the EE, he could definitely be thought of as being used and probably even built seriously. So Flames of Destruction silences the target for 1 turn when using Flames of Destruction. When the caster is granted Vigor, ignores effect resistance. This effect is applied before inflicting the burn. That just tells us the debuff stack, so that's pretty cool. But Flames of Destruction does already ignore resistance in terms of the burn. So if you're gonna silence him for 1 turn, I think that's pretty cool as well, right? So you have an ability to just lock someone down for that 1 turn, unless they're ML Kaurik, of course. So I would say the immunity one is pretty good. Combat readiness also has potential. I think almost all of them has potential for him. I don't think anyone's gonna be better. I think most people are gravitating towards the immunity one because they're thinking that, you know, because usually it's the strip that he's getting the Malicus's power passive going off. It's not like a random AoE like an Arbiter Vildred. It's usually a strip, but then it leaves him vulnerable, right? So I think the immunity granted after is going to be a nice one, and plus this 2 turn, right? So like an additional, like, you know, Sea Lilius follow-up or something like that is not going to basically remove his immunity. It could probably even bait a Sea Lilius. I've seen a lot of arena defense teams where it's Payra into Sea Lilius. I think right away he like wastes Sea Lilius's S3 and S2, right? So I think that's pretty cool. So that's coming. I think that's pretty much it in terms of the big things I wanted to talk about in this patch note. Some quality of life and UI changes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So anyways, I'm gonna save that there for the video recording. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Ancient Inheritance, the EEs, the Adine or Adin specialty change. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna end this for the video recording. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.